17-year-old Maya Chun had no idea that moving to Westbrook High in the middle of junior year would lead to the most humiliating day of her life. What started as cruel pranks and whispered insults escalated into something far worse when the school's most notorious bullies decided to make an example of her. But they had no clue about the secret Maya had been hiding since she was 8 years old, a secret that would soon leave them questioning everything they thought they knew about power. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The rain pelted against the windows of Westbrook High as Maya Chun clutched her schedule, scanning the crowded hallway for room 204. Students rushed past her, their conversations a blur of unfamiliar voices and inside jokes she'd never understand. This was her third school in 4 years, thanks to her father's job in international consulting, but somehow this felt different. Maybe it was the way everyone seemed to already know exactly where they belonged, or maybe it was the piercing stares she'd been getting since walking through the front doors. Maya's family had moved from Portland just 2 weeks ago, settling into a rental house on Maple Street while her parents' house haunted. Her mother, Dr. Linda Chen, had tried to reassure her that starting mid-semester would be fine, that she'd make friends quickly like she always did. But Maya could already tell that Westbrook was going to be a challenge. She finally found her first period chemistry class and slipped inside, hoping to grab a seat in the back. The teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, barely glanced up from his desk as he gestured toward an empty lab table near the middle of the room. Maya set down her backpack and pulled out her notebook, trying to ignore the curious glances from her new classmates. "Nice jacket," whispered the girl sitting next to her. Maya looked down at her vintage leather jacket, a thrift store found from Portland that she'd worn like armor on her first day. The comment seemed genuine enough, so Maya smiled. "Thanks, I'm Maya, Ashley," the girl replied. "You're the new girl, right? Where'd you move from?" Before Maya could answer, the classroom door burst open, and 3 students walked in 20 minutes late. The teacher didn't even look up this time, which told Maya everything she needed to know about the dynamic here. The trio, 2 boys and a girl, scanned the room like they owned it, their eyes eventually landing on Maya. The tallest boy, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a Letterman jacket, nudged his friend and whispered something that made them all smirk. Maya tried to focus on Mr. Rodriguez's explanation of ionic bonds, but she could feel their eyes on her throughout the rest of class. When the bell rang, Ashley leaned over. "That's Brad Matthews and his crew, Jessica Hartwell and Connor Walsh. They're—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Influential around here. Just keep your head down and you'll be fine." Maya nodded, but something in Ashley's tone made her stomach clench. She'd dealt with bullies before, but there was something different about the way these 3 had looked at her, like she was already marked. The morning passed without incident through English and world history, but during lunch Maya's luck ran out. She'd grabbed a sandwich from the cafeteria and was looking for an empty table when she spotted Ashley waving her over to a corner table with a few other quiet students. As she walked across the cafeteria, balancing her tray and backpack, she didn't notice Connor Walsh's foot extended into the aisle. Maya went down hard, her tray clattering to the floor and sending her turkey sandwich sliding across the grimy linoleum. The cafeteria didn't go silent like in the movies. Most students barely glanced over, but the laughter from Brad's table was loud enough to make Maya's cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Oops," Connor said with mock innocence, not bothering to hide his grin. "Sorry about that, new girl. Still getting used to walking?" Maya scrambled to clean up the mess, Ashley rushing over to help. "It's okay," Maya muttered, more to herself than anyone else. She'd learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. But Brad Matthews wasn't done. He sauntered over, his girlfriend Jessica and Connor flanking him like bodyguards. "You know what? I think we got off on the wrong foot, he said, his voice dripping with false sincerity. Let me make it up to you. He pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of Maya on her hands and knees, picking up scattered napkins. There, now you'll always remember your first day at Westbrook. Delete that, Maya said quietly, standing up. What was that? Brad cupped his ear theatrically. I couldn't hear you over all that newness. Several students had started paying attention now, sensing drama. Maya felt the familiar weight of dozens of eyes on her, waiting to see what she'd do. In Portland, she'd learned to walk away. In Sacramento before that, she'd tried fighting back with words and only made things worse. Maybe silence was the better option. Look, I don't want any trouble, Maya said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Jessica laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh honey, trouble already found you. This is Westbrook High, not some hippie school in Oregon. We have standards here. What's that supposed to mean? The words were out before Maya could stop them. It means, Brad said, stepping closer, that walking around here like you own the place isn't going to fly. You're nobody here. You're less than nobody. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd heard variations of this speech before, but something about Brad's tone made it feel more personal, more cutting. She glanced around the cafeteria, looking for a teacher, but the lunch monitors were busy dealing with a food fight near the windows. I'm not trying to be anybody, Maya said. I just want to eat lunch. Well, that's going to be a problem, Connor chimed in, because this is our cafeteria, these are our tables, and we don't like sharing with losers. The word hung in the air like a slap. Maya had been called worse things, but something about the way Connor said it, combined with the phone cameras that were now definitely pointed in her direction, made her feel smaller than she had in years. Ashley appeared at her elbow. Come on, Maya. Let's just go to the library. But Brad blocked their path. Actually, I don't think we're done here yet. See, new girl, there are rules at Westbrook, hierarchies, and you need to understand where you fit in that hierarchy. He pulled something out of his backpack, a piece of cardboard with loser written in thick black marker. Maya's blood ran cold as she realized what was happening. This is your official welcome to Westbrook High, Brad announced, loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. Wear it with pride. I'm not wearing that, Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. Oh, but you are, Jessica said sweetly. Because if you don't, things are going to get a lot worse for you here. And trust me, we can make your life very, very difficult. Maya looked around desperately. A few students were filming with their phones now, probably hoping to catch something they could post online. Others had turned away, not wanting to get involved. Ashley was tugging on her sleeve, trying to get her to just walk away, but something inside Maya snapped. Not the explosive kind of snap that led to screaming matches or thrown punches, but something quieter and more dangerous. A cold, calculating snap that reminded her of countless hours spent in a very different kind of training, learning a very different kind of discipline. I said no, Maya repeated, this time loud enough for everyone to hear. Brad's eyes narrowed. Wrong answer, new girl. He reached for her shoulder, probably intending to pin the sign to her jacket, but Maya stepped back smoothly, her movement so fluid it looked almost like dancing. Brad stumbled slightly, thrown off by her sudden grace. Don't touch me, Maya. Sawed, and something in her voice made Connor take a step back, but Jessica wasn't intimidated. Oh, look everyone, the new girl thinks she's tough. This is going to be fun. Maya closed her eyes for just a moment, hearing her sensei's voice from all those years of training. Control yourself first, then control the situation, when she opened them again. Her expression was completely calm. I don't want to fight you, she said simply. Brad laughed. Good, because you'd lose, but you're still wearing the sign. He lunged forward again, this time with Connor's help, both of them reaching. Film Maya at once. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but it would be replayed on social media for weeks. Maya didn't fight back in any way that Brad and his friends would have recognized as fighting. Instead, she seemed to simply move like water. Flowing around rocks, she slipped between their grasping hands, and suddenly both boys were on the ground, looking stunned and confused. She hadn't thrown a punch, hadn't even raised her voice, but somehow they were sitting on the cafeteria floor while she stood calmly above them. The cafeteria had gone quiet now, everyone staring at the scene unfolding before them. Jessica stood, frozen, the cardboard sign still in her hand, her mouth open in shock. "I told you I didn't want to fight," Maya said quietly, extending her hand to help Brad up. "And I told you not to touch me." But Brad wasn't interested in helping. His face was red with humiliation and rage as he scrambled to his feet. "You have no idea what you just did," he hissed. "No idea what you just started." Maya picked up her backpack and looked him straight in the eye. "I didn't start anything, I just finished it." As she walked toward the cafeteria exit, she could hear the whispers starting behind her, phones buzzing with messages and notifications. By the time she reached the hallway, she knew her life at Westbrook High had just become infinitely more complicated. But for the first time since walking through those front doors that morning, Maya Chun was smiling. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Maya's afternoon classes passed in a blur of whispered conversations and sideways glances. Word had spread quickly about the cafeteria incident, but the details seemed to change with each telling. By sixth period, she'd apparently performed everything from a kung fu kick to levitating Brad Matthews with her mind. The truth, as usual, was both simpler and more complicated. She found herself grateful for the anonymity of sitting in the back row of advanced physics, where Mr. Hoffman's monotone voice droned about velocity calculations. But even here, she could feel eyes on her, students turning in their seats to catch glimpses of the new girl who'd somehow embarrassed the school's golden boy. Ashley slid into the seat next to her, looking nervous. "Maya, what you did in the cafeteria? How did you learn to do that?" Maya kept her eyes on her textbook. "I don't know what you mean." "Come on," Ashley whispered. "I saw it. We all saw it." Brad and Connor went down like they'd hit a wall, but you barely moved. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Nice trick in the cafeteria. Too bad it won't save you tomorrow." She deleted the message without showing Ashley, but her stomach dropped. She'd been hoping that humiliating Brad in front of half the school might actually end things, but she should have known better. Bullies like Brad Matthews didn't just walk away when challenged. They escalated. The final bell couldn't come soon enough. Maya gathered her books and headed for her locker, planning to grab her jacket and escape to the safety of home. But as she rounded the corner, she found Jessica Hartwell and two other girls she didn't recognize standing by her locker like a welcoming committee. Well, Jessica said, her voice saccharine sweet. "If it isn't our little martial arts expert." Maya approached cautiously. "I just need to get my jacket." "Oh, you'll get it," said one of the other girls, a redhead with perfectly applied makeup. "But first, we need to have a little chat." The third girl, a brunette with arms crossed over her chest, stepped closer. "See, what happened at lunch? That was embarrassing for our friends. And when our friends get embarrassed, we take it personally." Maya tried to step around them to reach her locker, but Jessica blocked her path. "The thing is, new girl, you might have caught Brad off guard. But that doesn't make you special. That just makes you lucky." "I don't want any trouble," Maya said, the same words she'd used at lunch. But this time, they felt hollow even to her own ears. "Too late for that," the redhead said. "Trouble already found you, remember?" Maya noticed that the hallway was emptying out quickly. The other students seemed to sense the tension and were giving their group a wide berth. Even the teachers had disappeared into their classrooms, probably eager to start their own weekend. "Look." Maya tried again. "I'm sorry about what happened at lunch. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt." Jessica laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Hurt? Honey, you have no idea what hurt looks like yet." The brunette pulled out her phone. "But you're about to learn. See, we've been thinking about your little performance today, and we've decided it needs a sequel." Maya's heart sank as she realized what was happening. They were going to film whatever came next, probably planning to humiliate her online the same way she'd embarrassed their friends in person. 3 against 1 seems fair, right? Jessica asked, addressing her phone's camera. "Especially since our new student here thinks she's some kind of karate kid." Maya felt the familiar weight of expectation, the same feeling she'd had in the cafeteria when everyone was watching, waiting to see what she'd do. But this time felt different. This time, she was alone in a nearly empty hallway with 3 girls who clearly had nothing to lose. "I really don't want to fight you," Maya said, and she meant it. Fighting had never been the point of her training. Control was the point. Discipline was the point. Using her skills to hurt other people went against everything her sensei had taught her. "That's too bad," the redhead said, "because we really want to fight you." They moved toward her in a coordinated way that told Maya this wasn't their first time cornering someone. Jessica stayed in front while the other 2 flanked her, cutting off any escape routes. Maya found herself pressed against the row of lockers with nowhere to go. But instead of the panic she might have felt a year ago, Maya felt something else settling over her, the same calm that had carried her through countless hours of training. Through forms practiced until they became second nature, through sparring sessions where hesitation meant defeat. "Last chance," Jessica said, raising her phone higher. "Apologize to Brad and Connor. Get on your knees and say you're sorry for embarrassing them, and maybe we'll go easy on you." Maya looked at the 3 girls surrounding her, at the phone recording. Her response at the empty hallway stretching in both directions. She thought about her parents, who'd moved across the country to give her a fresh start. She thought about Ashley, who'd tried to warn her about the social hierarchy here. She thought about all the other schools where she'd tried to blend in, tried to be invisible, tried to avoid exactly this kind of confrontation. And then she thought about her grandfather, who'd first taken her to Master Kim's dojo when she was 8 years old, after she'd come home crying from school for the 3rd time that week. "Strength isn't about fighting," he'd told her. "It's about knowing when not to fight and being prepared when you don't have a choice." "I'm not getting on my knees," Maya said quietly. "Wrong answer," Jessica snarled and lunged forward. What happened next was like a carefully choreographed dance, except only one person knew the steps. Maya moved with the same fluid grace she'd shown in the cafeteria, but this time she was ready for multiple attackers. Jessica's grab turned into empty air as Maya stepped aside, using the girl's own momentum to send her stumbling into the lockers. The redhead's swing met nothing but space as Maya ducked and pivoted, her movements economical and precise. The brunette managed to grab Maya's backpack, but Maya simply slipped out of the straps and continued moving, letting her attacker's aggression work against them. Within moments, all 3 girls found themselves tangled together on the hallway floor. Jessica's phone skittering across the linoleum. Maya picked up her backpack and walked calmly to her locker, spinning the combination while the 3 girls untangled themselves behind her. She pulled out her leather jacket and slipped it on, then turned to face them. "I told you I didn't want to fight," she said. "But I also told you not to corner me." Jessica scrambled for her phone, her perfectly styled hair now disheveled, her makeup smeared. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You have no idea who you're messing with." Maya shouldered her backpack and started walking toward the exit. "I'm not messing with anyone. I'm just trying to go home." But as she pushed through the front doors of Westbrook High, She knew Jessica was right about one thing: this wasn't over. If anything, it was just beginning. The walk home gave Maya time to think. And what she thought about wasn't encouraging. She'd managed to handle the confrontation so far without seriously hurting anyone, but she could see the pattern forming. Each incident was escalating, each retaliation more aggressive than the last. Brad and his friends weren't going to back down just because she could defend herself. If anything, her skills seemed to be making them more determined to prove their dominance. By the time she reached the rental house on Maple Street, Maya had made a decision. She found her mother in the kitchen, grading papers from her new position at the local community college. "How was your first day?" Dr. Chun asked without looking up. Maya hesitated. Her parents had sacrificed a lot for this move, had uprooted their own lives to give her a chance at a stable high school experience. How could she tell them that it was already falling apart? "It was fine," she said finally. "Just the usual new school stuff." Her mother looked up then, studying Maya's face with the practiced eye of someone who'd raised a teenager through multiple school transitions. "Are you sure? You look—" "I'm fine, Mom, really." But as Maya headed upstairs to her room, she wasn't fine at all. She was tired of running, tired of starting over, tired of trying to be invisible. And for the first time since moving to Westbrook, she was starting to wonder if maybe it was time to stop hiding who she really was. Her phone buzzed with another text from an unknown number. "Monday's going to be interesting. Hope you're ready." Maya stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it and turned off her phone. She had the weekend to figure out her next move. But one thing was becoming clear: Monday was going to change everything. Maya's weekend passed in tense anticipation. She'd considered telling her parents about the situation at school, but every time she started to bring it up, she imagined the conversations that would follow: meetings with principals, calls to other parents, the whole bureaucratic dance that would only make her more of a target. Instead, she spent Saturday morning at the local community center, hoping to find a quiet place to practice her forms and clear her head. The community center's multi-purpose room was empty except for a janitor mopping the floors, who nodded at Maya as she set down her water bottle in the corner. She'd brought her workout clothes, figuring some physical activity might help her process everything that had happened. As she moved through her familiar routines, slow, controlled movements that helped center her mind, she found herself thinking about Master Kim's lessons from years ago. "The goal is never to win a fight," he'd told her class countless times. "The goal is to end a fight. There's a difference." Maya had never fully understood what he meant until now. Winning implied domination, proving superiority over an opponent. But ending a fight meant finding a resolution that allowed everyone to walk away with their dignity intact. The problem was, Brad Matthews and his crew didn't seem interested in dignity, theirs or anyone else's. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. "Hey, are you okay? I heard about what happened with Jessica after school." Maya paused mid-form. The school's gossip network was apparently more efficient than she'd realized. She texted back, "I'm fine. Thanks for checking. Want to hang out this weekend? Maybe we could study together or something." Maya smiled despite herself. Ashley was being kind, but Maya could read between the lines. The girl was worried about being seen with her, afraid of becoming guilty by association. Maya couldn't blame her. She'd probably make the same choice in Ashley's position, maybe next weekend. "I've got family stuff this weekend." It wasn't entirely a lie. Maya did have family stuff, like figuring out how to tell her parents that their daughter's fresh start was already crumbling. Sunday evening brought a group video call with her cousins back in Portland, who were eager to hear about her new school. Maya found herself describing Westbrook High in carefully neutral terms, talking about her classes and teachers while avoiding any mention of Brad or the cafeteria incident. When her cousin Jamie asked if she'd made any friends yet, Maya's hesitation must have been obvious. "You know," Jamie said, Remember when you first started at Lincoln High? You were so nervous about fitting in, but by the end of the year you were practically running the place. Maya laughed, but it felt forced. This is different. How so? Maya struggled to put it into words. Portland had been different because she'd arrived at the beginning of freshman year, when everyone was new and nervous. She'd had time to establish herself gradually, to find her place in the social ecosystem. But arriving at Westbrook as a junior meant walking into a fully formed hierarchy, with established relationships and unwritten rules she was still learning. "It just is," she said finally. After the call ended, Maya sat in her room staring at her martial arts trophies, lined up on the shelf her father had installed the previous weekend. Gold medals from tournaments, certificates from belt tests, photos of her with Master Kim and her teammates from various competitions. All evidence of a side of herself that she'd been trying to keep hidden since arriving in Westbrook, but maybe hiding wasn't working. Monday morning arrived with a gray sky that matched Maya's mood. She'd barely slept, her mind running through various scenarios of what Brad might have planned. As she walked through Westbrook's front doors, she noticed the subtle shift in atmosphere immediately. Conversations stopped when she passed, students pulled out their phones, and the hallway seemed charged with anticipation. Ashley was waiting by Maya's locker, looking nervous. "Maya, I think you should know. There's a video going around." Maya's heart sank. "What kind of video?" Ashley showed her phone screen. It was security footage from the school hallway, showing Maya's confrontation with Jessica and her friends. On Friday, the video was grainy and silent, but it clearly showed Maya avoiding their attacks with movements that looked almost supernatural to anyone unfamiliar with martial arts. "Someone hacked the school security system," Ashley whispered. "The video's been posted everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. You're basically famous now." Maya watched herself on the small screen, seeing her own movements from an outside perspective for the first time. To her, what she'd done was basic defensive maneuvering, nothing more advanced than what she'd learned in her first year of training. But she could see how it might look to others, like something out of an action movie. "How many people have seen this?" Maya asked. "Pretty much everyone," Ashley admitted. "It's got like 50,000 views already." Maya closed her locker and leaned against it, trying to process this new development. She'd spent years keeping her martial arts background private, not wanting to be labeled as the Karate Kid or have people expect her to be some kind of action hero. But now her secret was out, broadcast to anyone with an internet connection. "There's more," Ashley said reluctantly. "Brad's been telling people that the video is fake, that you had it staged somehow. He's calling it a publicity stunt." Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of it. A publicity stunt for what? "I don't know, but people are starting to take sides. Some think you're awesome, others think you're just showing off. And Brad's crew ... double quotes." Ashley trailed off. "What about Brad's crew?" "They're saying you humiliated them on purpose, that you've been planning this whole thing since you got here. They're calling it a setup." The first period bell rang, saving Maya from having to respond. But as she walked to chemistry class, she could feel the weight of dozens of stares following her. Some students looked impressed, others skeptical, but all of them were watching her with a new kind of intensity. Mr. Rodriguez was writing molecular formulas on the whiteboard when Maya slipped into her seat. She'd hoped that the routine of note-taking and lab work might provide a temporary escape from the social drama, but even here she could feel the attention. Students kept glancing over at her, whispering to each other, clearly discussing the video that had made her an overnight celebrity. At lunch, Maya debated skipping the cafeteria entirely, but she realized that hiding would only make things worse. She grabbed a sandwich and headed for Ashley's table, trying to project confidence. She didn't feel the cafeteria buzzed with conversation, but Maya noticed that the volume dropped slightly when she entered. She could see Brad's table in her peripheral vision, He was holding court with a larger group than usual, probably spinning his own version of recent events. "Maya," a voice called out. She turned to see a tall boy with dark hair and a friendly smile approaching her table. "I'm Marcus Rodriguez. I'm on the wrestling team. That video of you is incredible. Where did you learn to move like that?" Maya felt her cheeks flush. "It's not that big a deal. Are you kidding? I've been wrestling for 6 years, and I've never seen defensive work like that. You made those girls look like they were moving in slow motion." Other students were starting to gather around, drawn by Marcus's enthusiasm. Maya found herself surrounded by curious faces, some admiring, others skeptical, all of them wanting answers. "Is it true you're a black belt?" asked a girl Maya didn't recognize. "How long have you been training?" asked another. "Can you really fight off multiple attackers like in the movies?" Maya felt overwhelmed by the sudden attention. This was exactly what she'd been trying to avoid, being defined by her martial arts skills instead of just being a normal teenager. But before she could respond to any of the questions, a familiar voice cut through the chatter. "Well, well," Brad Matthews said, approaching with his usual entourage. "If it isn't our little internet sensation." The crowd around Maya's table went quiet, sensing drama. Maya looked up at Brad, noting the forced smile on his face and the tension in his shoulders. He was trying to project confidence, but she could see the anger underneath. "Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame?" Brad continued. "Must be nice, getting famous for beating up girls." Maya stood up slowly, her movements careful and controlled. "I didn't beat up anyone. I defended myself." "Right," Brad said with a laugh. That didn't reach his eyes. "Defend yourself against 3 girls who barely came up to your shoulder. Very impressive." Maya noticed that more students were gathering now, phones coming out to record whatever was about to happen. The cafeteria was becoming a theater, and she and Brad were the unwilling stars of the show. "Look," Maya said, keeping her voice calm, "I don't want any more trouble." "Too bad," Brad replied, stepping closer. "Because trouble is all you're going to get from now on. See, the thing about internet fame is that it doesn't last. But humiliation? That sticks around forever." Maya felt the familiar calm settling over her, the same feeling she'd experienced before every competition, every test, every moment when everything depended on her ability to stay centered. She could see what Brad was trying to do, provoke her into doing something dramatic in front of all these cameras, something that would make her look like the aggressor. "I'm not going to fight you, Brad," she said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Good," Brad said with a smirk. "Because you wouldn't last 5 seconds." But as Maya picked up her backpack and started to walk away, Brad made a crucial mistake. He grabbed her shoulder, trying to spin her around to face him. Maya's response was instinctive, a basic defensive technique she'd practiced thousands of times. She simply stepped aside and redirected his energy, using his own momentum against him. Brad stumbled forward, caught off balance, and crashed into an empty table. The cafeteria erupted in chaos, students cheering, phones recording, teachers rushing over to restore order. But Maya was already walking toward the exit, her head held high, leaving Brad Matthews sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered lunch trays and his own shattered pride. As she pushed through the cafeteria doors, Maya realized that her quiet life at Westbrook High was officially over. But for the first time since arriving at the school, she wasn't sure that was entirely a bad thing. Maya's weekend passed in tense anticipation. She'd considered telling her parents about the situation at school, but every time she started to bring it up, she imagined the conversations that would follow, meetings with principals, calls to other parents, the whole bureaucratic dance that would only make her more of a target. Instead, she spent Saturday morning at the local community center, hoping to find a quiet place to practice her forms and clear her head. The community center's multipurpose room was empty except for a janitor mopping the floors, who nodded at Maya as she set down her water bottle in the corner. She'd brought her workout clothes, figuring some physical activity might help her process everything that had happened. As she moved through her familiar routines, slow, controlled movements, that helped center her mind, she found herself thinking about Master Kim's lessons from years ago. The goal is never to win a fight, he'd told her class countless times. The goal is to end a fight. There's a difference. Maya had never fully understood what he meant until now. Winning implied domination, proving superiority over an opponent. But ending a fight meant finding a resolution that allowed everyone to walk away with their dignity intact. The problem was, Brad Matthews and his crew didn't seem interested in dignity, theirs or anyone else's. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. "Hey, are you okay? I heard about what happened with Jessica after school." Maya paused mid-form. The school's gossip network was apparently more efficient than she'd realized. She texted back, "I'm fine. Thanks for checking. Want to hang out this weekend? Maybe we could study together or something." Maya smiled despite herself. Ashley was being kind, but Maya could read between the lines. The girl was worried about being seen with her, afraid of becoming guilty by association. Maya couldn't blame her. She'd probably make the same choice in Ashley's position, maybe next weekend. "I've got family stuff this weekend." It wasn't entirely a lie. Maya did have family stuff, like figuring out how to tell her parents that their daughter's fresh start was already crumbling. Sunday evening brought a group video call with her cousins back in Portland, who were eager to hear about her new school. Maya found herself describing Westbrook High in carefully neutral terms, talking about her classes and teachers while avoiding any mention of Brad or the cafeteria incident. When her cousin Jamie asked if she'd made any friends yet, Maya's hesitation must have been obvious. "You know," Jamie said, "remember when you first started at Lincoln High? You were so nervous about fitting in, but by the end of the year you were practically running the place." Maya laughed, but it felt forced. "This is different. How so?" Maya struggled to put it into words. Portland had been different because she'd arrived at the beginning of freshman year, when everyone was new and nervous. She'd had time to establish herself gradually, to find her place in the social ecosystem. But arriving at Westbrook as a junior meant walking into a fully formed hierarchy, with established relationships and unwritten rules she was still learning. "It just is," she said finally. After the call ended, Maya sat in her room staring at her martial arts trophies, lined up on the shelf her father had installed the previous weekend. Gold medals from tournaments, certificates from belt tests, photos of her with Master Kim and her teammates from various competitions. All evidence of a side of herself that she'd been trying to keep hidden since arriving in Westbrook, but maybe hiding wasn't working. Monday morning arrived with a gray sky that matched Maya's mood. She'd barely slept, her mind running through various scenarios of what Brad might have planned. As she walked through Westbrook's front doors, she noticed the subtle shift in atmosphere immediately. Conversations stopped when she passed. Students pulled out their phones, and the hallways seemed charged with anticipation. Ashley was waiting by Maya's locker, looking nervous. "Maya, I think you should know. There's a video going around." Maya's heart sank. "What kind of video?" Ashley showed her phone screen. It was security footage from the school hallway, showing Maya's confrontation with Jessica and her friends. On Friday, the video was grainy and silent, but it clearly showed Maya avoiding their attacks with movements that looked almost supernatural to anyone unfamiliar with martial arts. "Someone hacked the school's security system," Ashley whispered. "The video's been posted everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. You're basically famous now." Maya watched herself on the small screen, seeing her own movements from an outside perspective for the first time. To her, what she'd done was basic defensive maneuvering, nothing more advanced than what she'd learned in her first year of training. But she could see how it might look to others, like something out of an action movie. How many people have seen this? Maya asked. Pretty much everyone, Ashley admitted. It's got like 50,000 views already. Maya closed her locker and leaned against it, trying to process this new development. She'd spent years keeping her martial arts background private, not wanting to be labeled as the Karate Kid or have people expect her to be some kind of action hero. But now her secret was out, broadcast to anyone with an internet connection. There's more, Ashley said reluctantly. Brad's been telling people that the video is fake, that you had it staged somehow. He's calling it a publicity stunt. Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of it. A publicity stunt for what? I don't know, but people are starting to take sides. Some think you're awesome, others think you're just showing off. And Brad's crew ... all quotes Ashley trailed off. What about Brad's crew? They're saying you humiliated them on purpose, that you've been planning this whole thing since you got here. They're calling it a setup. The first period bell rang, saving Maya from having to respond. But as she walked to chemistry class, she could feel the weight of dozens of stares following her. Some students looked impressed, others skeptical, but all of them were watching her with a new kind of intensity. Mr. Rodriguez was writing molecular formulas on the whiteboard when Maya slipped into her seat. She'd hoped that the routine of note-taking and lab work might provide a temporary escape from the social drama, but even here she could feel the attention. Students kept glancing over at her, whispering to each other, clearly discussing the video that had made her an overnight celebrity. At lunch, Maya debated skipping the cafeteria entirely, but she realized that hiding would only make things worse. She grabbed a sandwich and headed for Ashley's table. Trying to project confidence, she didn't feel the cafeteria buzzed with conversation. But Maya noticed that the volume dropped slightly when she entered. She could see Brad's table in her peripheral vision. He was holding court with a larger group than usual, probably spinning his own version of recent events. Maya, a voice called out. She turned to see a tall boy with dark hair and a friendly smile approaching her table. I'm Marcus Rodriguez. I'm on the wrestling team. That video of you is incredible. Where did you learn to move like that? Maya felt her cheeks flush. It's not that big a deal. Are you kidding? I've been wrestling for 6 years, and I've never seen defensive work like that. You made those girls look like they were moving in slow motion. Other students were starting to gather around, drawn by Marcus's enthusiasm. Maya found herself surrounded by curious faces, some admiring, others skeptical, all of them wanting answers. Is it true you're a black belt? Asked a girl Maya didn't recognize. How long have you been training? Asked another. Can you really fight off multiple attackers like in the movies? Maya felt overwhelmed by the sudden attention. This was exactly what she'd been trying to avoid. Being defined by her martial arts skills instead of just being a normal teenager. But before she could respond to any of the questions, a familiar voice cut through the chatter. Well, Brad Matthews said, approaching with his usual entourage. If it isn't our little internet sensation. The crowd around Maya's table went quiet, sensing drama. Maya looked up at Brad, noting the forced smile on his face and the tension in his shoulders. He was trying to project confidence, but she could see the anger underneath. Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame? Brad continued. Must be nice, getting famous for beating up girls. Maya stood up slowly, her movements careful and controlled. I didn't beat up anyone, I defended myself. Right, Brad said with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Defend yourself against 3 girls who barely came up to your shoulder. Very impressive. Maya noticed that more students were gathering now, phones coming out to record whatever was about to happen. The cafeteria was becoming a theater, and she and Brad were the unwilling stars of the show. Look, Maya said, keeping her voice calm. I don't want any more trouble. Too bad, Brad replied, stepping closer. Because trouble is all you're going to get from now on. See, the thing about internet fame is that it doesn't last. But humiliation? That sticks around forever. Maya felt the familiar calm settling over her. The same feeling she'd experienced before every competition, every test, every moment when everything depended on her ability to stay centered. She could see what Brad was trying to do, provoke her into doing something dramatic in front of all these cameras, something that would make her look like the aggressor. "I'm not going to fight you, Brad," she said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Good," Brad said with a smirk. "Because you wouldn't last 5 seconds. But as Maya picked up her backpack and started to walk away, Brad made a crucial mistake. He grabbed her shoulder, trying to spin her around to face him. Maya's response was instinctive, a basic defensive technique she'd practiced thousands of times. She simply stepped aside and redirected his energy, using his own momentum against him. Brad stumbled forward, caught off balance, and crashed into an empty table. The cafeteria erupted in chaos, students cheering, phones recording, teachers rushing over to restore order. But Maya was already walking toward the exit, her head held high, leaving Brad Matthews sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered lunch trays and his own shattered pride dot as she pushed through the cafeteria doors. Maya realized that her quiet life at Westbrook High was officially over. But for the first time since arriving at the school, she wasn't sure that was entirely a bad thing. Maya's return to Westbrook High felt different this time. The hallways buzzed with an electric tension that hadn't been there before her suspension. Students openly stared as she passed, some with admiration, others with wariness, all of them clearly wondering what the Westbrook warrior would do next. She found Ashley at her locker, looking relieved to see her back. "Maya, thank God you're okay. The rumors have been insane. Some people were saying you got expelled, others that you were transferring schools." Ashley lowered her voice. "Brad's been telling anyone who'll listen that you're dangerous, that the school should have gotten rid of you permanently." Maya nodded, unsurprised. "What about everyone else? What are they saying?" Mixed reactions. "The athletes think you're awesome. Marcus Rodriguez has been showing your videos to the whole wrestling team. Some of the theater kids are calling it performance art, but Brad's friends are spreading stories about you being unstable, saying you attacked Jessica for no reason." Maya adjusted her backpack and closed her locker. "What do you think?" Ashley hesitated. I think you're the first person to stand up to them in years. But I also think things are getting out of control. This whole thing has gotten so much bigger than just school drama." She was right. Maya had seen the news articles, the think pieces about bullying and self-defense, the hot takes from martial arts experts and education specialists. Her story had become a symbol for everything people loved or hated about youth culture, social media, and school violence policies. But today, Maya had a different plan. First period passed quietly. Her physics teacher, Mr. Hoffman, treated her exactly the same as before, which Maya appreciated. But she could feel the weight of expectation from her classmates, all of them waiting for the next dramatic chapter in the saga. During second period English, Mrs. Patterson assigned partner work, and Maya found herself paired with David Kim, a quiet boy who'd never spoken to her before. "So," David said as they opened their textbooks, "are you really a black belt?" Maya smiled. "Actually, I'm a second-degree black belt. But that's not really the point." "What is the point?" It was a good question, one Maya had been wrestling with since her conversation with Master Kim. "I think the point is knowing when not to use it." David looked confused, but before he could ask for clarification, the intercom crackled to life. "Maya! Chun, please report to the principal's office immediately." The class went silent, dozens of eyes turning toward Maya. She gathered her books calmly, ignoring the whispers that started the moment she stood up. Principal Davidson's office felt different this time. He wasn't alone. Beside him sat a woman in a crisp business suit who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Martinez from the district office. "Maya," Principal Davidson began, "we need to discuss your reintegration into the school community." Given the attention your situation has received, we want to ensure a smooth transition. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. We've had calls from media outlets, martial arts organizations, even a few talent agents. This situation has created unprecedented circumstances. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of calls? Interview requests mainly. Some people want to hold you up as an anti-bullying advocate. Others want to criticize the school's handling of the situation. We need to make sure you understand the position this puts the school in. Are you asking me not to talk to reporters? We're asking you to be mindful of how your actions reflect on Westbrook High, Principal Davidson said. This school has a reputation to maintain. Maya almost laughed at the irony. The school was worried about its reputation, but it had done nothing to address the bullying that created this mess in the first place. I understand, she said carefully. But I also have a right to tell my own story. The meeting continued for 20 minutes, mostly consisting of veiled threats disguised as guidance. By the time Maya left the office, she was more determined than ever to execute her plan. Lunch period arrived with its usual chaos, but Maya noticed something different as she entered the cafeteria. The usual social groups seemed more rigidly defined than before, as if her absence had forced everyone to choose sides more clearly. Brad's table was larger than usual, filled with students who'd apparently decided to align themselves with the established power structure. But she also noticed new alliances. Marcus Rodriguez was sitting with kids from the debate team and drama club. Groups that normally didn't mix. Maya got her lunch and walked purposefully toward the center of the cafeteria, to an empty table that would put her in clear view of everyone. She could feel the attention shifting toward her, conversations dying as students realized something was about to happen. She pulled out her phone and opened the camera app, setting it to record. Then she stood up. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet cafeteria. "I have something I'd like to say." Brad Matthews looked up from his table, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm as he realized what was happening. Jessica Hartwell grabbed his arm, whispering urgently in his ear. "My name is Maya Chun," she continued, speaking directly to her phone's camera but loud enough for everyone to hear. "For the past few weeks, I've been involved in some incidents here at Westbrook High that have gotten a lot of attention online. More students were pulling out their phones now, creating their own recordings of whatever was about to unfold. I want to set the record straight about a few things. First, I never wanted any of this attention. I never wanted to be internet famous or be called the Westbrook Warrior or any of that. I just wanted to be a normal student at a new school." Maya paused, making eye contact with Brad across the cafeteria. "Second, I want to apologize to Brad Matthews, Jessica Hartwell, Connor Walsh, and anyone else who's been hurt or embarrassed by these incidents. That was never my intention." A murmur of surprise rippled through the cafeteria. This clearly wasn't what anyone had expected. "But I also want to explain why I defended myself the way I did. I've been studying martial arts since I was 8 years old. It's taught me discipline, respect, and self-control. But most importantly, it's taught me that real strength isn't about dominating other people. It's about protecting yourself and others without causing unnecessary harm." Brad was standing now, his face flushed with anger. Maya could see him starting to move toward her, but she continued speaking. "I know some people think I was showing off, or trying to humiliate anyone. But the truth is, every technique I used was designed to stop aggression without causing injury. I could have hurt people, but I chose not to. That's what my training taught me." She looked directly at Brad, who had stopped halfway across the cafeteria, apparently unsure how to respond to her unexpected approach. "Brad, I know you're angry about what happened. I know it's embarrassing to have those moments recorded and shared online. If I could take that back, I would. But I can't change what's already happened. I can only try to move forward." Maya took a deep breath, preparing for the most important part of her speech. "So here's what I'm proposing. I challenge Brad Matthews to meet me in the school gym after classes today. Not to fight, but to talk. To work this out like adults instead of letting it escalate into something worse." The cafeteria erupted in whispers and gasps. This was definitely not what anyone had expected. "I'll be there at 3:30, Maya said, still recording. "Whether Brad shows up or not is his choice. But either way, I'm done with this cycle of retaliation. I'm done with videos going viral and people taking sides and all the drama that's hurt this school's community." She looked around the cafeteria, making eye contact with as many students as she could. "We're all just trying to get through high school. We all make mistakes, we all have bad days, and we all deserve the chance to do better. So let's try to do better." Maya stopped recording and sat back down, her heart pounding. The cafeteria slowly returned to its normal volume, but she could feel the shift in energy. Her public challenge had changed the dynamic completely. Now Brad couldn't simply retaliate without looking like he was escalating things unnecessarily. Ashley appeared at her table within minutes, looking stunned. "Maya, what are you doing?" "You just gave him an ultimatum in front of the entire school." "I gave him an opportunity," Maya corrected, "to end this with his dignity intact. What if he doesn't show up? Then everyone will know he backed down from a conversation, not a fight, and this whole thing will finally be over. And if he does show up?" Maya smiled, thinking of Master Kim's words about finding a way for everyone to save face. "Then we'll find out if he's as smart as I think he is." The rest of the lunch period passed in a blur of curious stares and whispered conversations. Maya could see Brad's table engaged in intense discussion, Jessica gesturing animatedly while Connor shook his head. Brad himself sat quietly, staring across the cafeteria at Maya with an expression she couldn't quite read. As the bell rang and students began filing out, Maya caught Brad's eye one more time. He held her gaze for a long moment, then gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Game on." The afternoon classes dragged by with agonizing slowness. Maya tried to focus on her lessons, but she could feel the anticipation building throughout the school. Word of her challenge had spread beyond the cafeteria, and by the time final period arrived, it seemed like everyone at Westbrook High knew about the 3:30 meeting. As the final bell rang, Maya gathered her books and headed toward the gym, wondering if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her high school career, or the smartest move she'd ever made. The gymnasium at Westbrook High felt cavernous when Maya pushed through the double doors at exactly 3:30. Late afternoon sunlight streamed through the high windows, casting long shadows across the polished basketball court. She'd expected the space to be empty, except for herself and hopefully Brad. But what she found instead made her stop in her tracks. At least 50 students had gathered in the bleachers, their voices echoing off the walls in hushed conversations. Maya recognized faces from every social group in school: athletes, theater kids, honor students, even some she'd never seen before, who must have heard about the meeting through the relentless high school gossip network. Ashley sat in the front row, looking nervous but supportive. Marcus Rodriguez had claimed a spot with several wrestling team members, while various other students had arranged themselves like an audience waiting for a performance. Maya felt a spike of anxiety. This wasn't the private conversation she'd been hoping for. But then the gym doors opened again, and Brad Matthews walked in. He looked different somehow, less confident than usual, his Letterman jacket absent for once. Connor Walsh and Jessica Hartwell flanked him, but they hung back near the entrance while Brad approached the center of the gym where Maya stood waiting. "Well," Brad said, his voice carrying in the quiet space, "you certainly know how to draw." A crowd. Maya glanced around at the assembled students. "This wasn't what I had in mind." "Yeah, well, nothing about this situation has gone according to plan." Brad stopped about 10 feet away from her, close enough to talk without shouting, but far enough to maintain a buffer zone. "So what now? You called this meeting?" Maya took a deep breath, aware that dozens of phones were probably recording this moment. Whatever happened here would be dissected and shared across social media within minutes. "I meant what I said at lunch," she began. "I'm tired of this cycle we're stuck in. Every time we interact, it escalates. Someone always has to win, someone always has to lose, and it's tearing the school apart." Brad's jaw tightened. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one whose reputation got destroyed by viral videos. Your reputation got damaged because you chose to bully a new student on her first day." Maya replied, her voice steady but not unkind. "The videos just showed people what was already happening." A murmur rippled through the bleachers. This was clearly not the confrontation most students had expected. "Look," Maya continued, "I know you're angry. I know you feel humiliated. But ask yourself this: why did you target me in the first place?" Brad's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Because you walked in here like you owned the place, acting like you were better than everyone else." "How?" Maya asked genuinely. "By sitting alone at lunch? By trying to avoid attention? By not fighting back when your friends knocked my food on the floor? By ... double quotes," Brad started, then stopped. Maya could see him struggling with the question, trying to articulate something he'd never really examined. "By being different," Jessica called out from near the entrance. "By not knowing your place." Maya turned toward Jessica, then back to Brad. "Is that it? You targeted me because I didn't immediately submit to your social hierarchy." "It's not about submission," Brad said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Then what is it about?" Maya stepped closer, her body language open and non-threatening. "Because from where I stand, it looks like you were threatened by someone who didn't need your approval to feel confident." The gymnasium had gone completely silent now. Even the students in the bleachers seemed to be holding their breath. Brad stared at Maya for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "You want to know the truth? Fine. You made me look weak on your first day, just by existing, by not being intimidated. And I couldn't let that slide because if one person doesn't fear me, then maybe others will start thinking they don't have to either." The honesty in his voice surprised everyone, including Maya. This wasn't the swaggering bully from the cafeteria. This was a teenager admitting to being afraid of losing control. "So this was never really about me," Maya said softly. "It was about maintaining power." "Everything in high school is about maintaining power," Brad replied. "You think these people respect me because I'm a good person? They respect me because they're afraid of me. But what kind of respect is that?" Maya asked. "Respect based on fear isn't real. It's just compliance." Marcus Rodriguez stood up in the bleachers. "She's right, man. People don't actually like being afraid of you." Other students began speaking up, their voices overlapping. "I only hung out with your group because I didn't want to be a target. Hef. The school walks on eggshells around you. You think people admire you, but mostly they just try to stay out of your way." Brad looked around at the students in the bleachers, his face pale as he processed what he was hearing. Maya watched him absorb the reality that his power base was built on intimidation rather than genuine loyalty. "But that's how it works here," he said, his voice quieter now. "That's how it's always worked." "It doesn't have to," Maya said. "What? If instead of people fearing you, they actually respected you? What if you used your influence to make school better instead of making it worse? You think I can just flip a switch and become a different person? I think you can choose to be different starting right now." Brad looked around the gymnasium again, taking in the faces of his classmates. Maya could see him wrestling with something internal, years of learned behavior fighting against the possibility of change. "What are you proposing?" he asked finally. Maya pulled out her phone and opened the video she'd recorded at lunch. "I'm proposing we end this publicly, the same way it started." I post a video where we both acknowledge what happened, where we both take responsibility for our parts, and where we commit to doing better. And then what? We pretend to be friends? We don't have to be friends, but we can choose not to be enemies. Brad was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could practically see him calculating the social mathematics, what he'd gain, what he'd lose, how this would affect his standing in the complex ecosystem of high school politics. If I do this, he said slowly, if I admit I was wrong, how do I know you won't use it against me? How do I know this isn't just another way to humiliate me? Maya looked him directly in the eyes. Because I'm going to admit I was wrong too. About what? About the way I handled those confrontations. I could have de-escalated things instead of just defending myself. I could have tried to understand why you felt threatened instead of just reacting to your behavior. I let my pride get in the way of finding a better solution. The admission seemed to surprise Brad more than anything else that had happened. You're apologizing for defending yourself? I'm apologizing for not trying harder to find a way where neither of us had to lose face. My martial arts training isn't just about physical techniques. It's about finding peaceful resolutions to conflicts. I forgot that. Jessica stepped forward from the back of the gym. This is ridiculous. Brad, you don't owe her anything. She humiliated you in front of the whole school. But Connor Walsh surprised everyone by disagreeing. Actually, Jess, maybe. She has a point. This whole thing has gotten out of control. We're all walking around angry all the time. Everyone's picking sides. Teachers are watching us like we're about to explode. It's exhausting. Maya seized the moment. It doesn't have to be exhausting. We could choose to move forward differently. Brad looked at his friends, then at the students in the bleachers, then back at Maya. She could see him weighing his options, considering possibilities he'd never thought about before. What would this video say exactly? He asked. Maya thought carefully before answering. The truth, that we both made mistakes, that we both let pride and fear drive our decisions, that we're choosing to do better, not because anyone's making us, but because it's the right thing to do. And you think that will end it? Just like that? I think it gives us both a chance to be better than we've been. Whether we take that chance is up to us. Brad looked around the gymnasium one more time, his gaze lingering on faces he'd known for years, some afraid, some hopeful, some skeptical. Finally, his eyes returned to Maya. Okay, he said quietly. Let's try something different. The gymnasium erupted in whispers and murmurs as Brad pulled out his own phone. Maya felt a mixture of relief and nervous anticipation. They'd gotten this far, but the real test would be whether they could follow through on their commitment to change. But if this backfires, Brad added with a rueful smile, if this makes everything worse instead of better, I'm blaming you. Maya smiled back. Fair enough. But I don't think it will make things worse. I think we're about to surprise everyone, including ourselves. As they prepared to record what might be the most important video of their high school careers, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced since arriving at Westbrook High. Genuine hope for the future. Recording the video took longer than Maya had expected. She and Brad spent nearly 20 minutes working out what they wanted to say, with input from students in the bleachers who had surprisingly thoughtful suggestions about how to frame their message. What emerged was something neither of them could have created alone, a genuine conversation between two teenagers who had gotten caught up in a cycle of conflict and found a way out. Okay, Brad said, holding up his phone with Maya beside him in the center of the gym. You ready for this? Maya nodded, though her heart was racing. In the background, she could see dozens of students with their own phones out, ready to capture and share whatever happened next. Hit record, she said. Brad started the video. Hey everyone, this is Brad Matthews from Westbrook High. I'm here with Maya Chun, and we wanted to address everything that's been happening between us over the past few weeks. Maya took over smoothly. We know a lot of people have seen the videos of our confrontations. And we know people have been taking sides, making this into something bigger than it needed to be. The truth is, Brad continued, we both made mistakes. I targeted Maya from her first day here because I felt threatened by someone who didn't fit into the social structure I was used to controlling. This was the part Maya had worried about most. Would Brad actually follow through on his commitment to honesty? But he surprised her by continuing without hesitation. I used intimidation and bullying to try to maintain power, and when that didn't work on Maya, I escalated things instead of backing down. That was wrong, and I'm sorry, not just to Maya but to everyone who's felt unsafe at this school because of my behavior. Maya felt a surge of respect for Brad's courage. Admitting fault publicly, especially when you held a position of social power, took genuine strength. And I made mistakes too, Maya added. I could have tried harder to find a peaceful solution instead of just reacting defensively. I let my pride get in the way of de-escalation, and I forgot that the goal isn't to win conflicts, it's to resolve them. So we're both committing to doing better, Brad said. To find ways to solve problems without violence, without humiliation, and without turning the whole school into a battlefield. Maya looked directly into the camera. We're asking everyone else to do the same. Stop picking sides, stop sharing videos that hurt people, and start looking for ways to make Westbrook High a place where everyone feels safe. This doesn't mean we're best friends now, Brad clarified with a slight smile. But it means we're choosing respect over revenge, understanding over escalation. And hopefully, Maya concluded, other people will make that choice too. Brad stopped recording, and for a moment, the gymnasium was completely silent. Then someone in the bleachers started clapping, and the applause spread until the entire space echoed with the sound. Ashley rushed down from the bleachers to hug Maya. That was incredible. I can't believe you actually got him to apologize. He got himself to apologize, Maya corrected. I just gave him the opportunity. Meanwhile, Connor Walsh had approached Brad, looking uncertain. So, what happens now, with the group, I mean? Brad considered the question seriously. I think we figure out how to be leaders instead of bullies. How to use our influence to make things better instead of worse. Jessica Hartwell, who had remained silent during the video recording, finally spoke up. You know this changes everything, right? The whole social order, all the relationships we've built. Maybe it's time for that to change, Brad replied. Maybe we were maintaining something that wasn't worth maintaining. Over the next hour, as students gradually filed out of the gymnasium, Maya found herself in conversations she never could have imagined having. Athletes talked about feeling pressured to be aggressive to maintain their status. Theater kids shared stories about avoiding certain areas of the school to stay safe. Honor students admitted to keeping their heads down rather than standing up for others. Marcus Rodriguez pulled Maya aside as she was gathering her backpack. You know, what you did today, that took more courage than any physical fight would have. It wasn't courage, Maya said. It was just exhaustion. I was tired of being angry all the time. That's what courage is sometimes, being tired enough of the wrong thing to try the right thing. By the time Maya left school that day, the video Brad had recorded was already making rounds on social media. But this time, the comments were different. Instead of taking sides or analyzing combat techniques, people were discussing conflict resolution, the psychology of bullying, and the possibility of change. At dinner that night, Maya showed the video to her parents. Her father watched with tears in his eyes, while her mother smiled with obvious pride. I'm impressed, Dr. Chun said. Not just with you, but with that boy Brad. It takes real maturity to admit fault publicly. Do you think it will actually change anything? Maya asked. Or will everything go back to normal in a few weeks? Her father considered the question. Change is hard, especially in an environment like high school where social pressures are so intense. But you and Brad created something today that didn't exist before, a different way of thinking about power and conflict. Master Kim called while you were at school, her mother added. He saw the video. He said to tell you that you finally understood the difference between winning a fight and ending one. Maya smiled at that. Master Kim had been trying to teach her that lesson for years, but she'd needed to live it to truly understand it. The next few days at Westbrook High were unlike anything Maya had experienced. The video had gone even more viral than her original confrontations, but the tone was completely different. News outlets were calling it a model for conflict resolution. Education experts were praising the approach, and anti-bullying organizations were asking to use it in their campaigns. But more importantly, the atmosphere at school was changing. It wasn't dramatic or instantaneous. Old habits and social patterns don't disappear overnight. But Maya noticed small shifts. Students who had never spoken to each other were sitting together at lunch. The hallways felt less tense. Teachers commented on improved classroom dynamics. Brad kept his word about changing his behavior. Maya watched him navigate the social complexities of stepping down from his position as the school's primary intimidator while still maintaining respect from his peers. It wasn't easy. Some students tested him, trying to see if his change was genuine, while others seemed disappointed that the drama was over. Jessica and Connor had different reactions to the new dynamic. Connor seemed relieved to escape the pressure of being part of Brad's enforcement crew, but Jessica struggled more with the loss of social status that came with the group's transformation. Maya felt sympathetic. Changing established power structures was harder for some people than others. 3 weeks after the gymnasium meeting, Maya was surprised to find Brad approaching her table at lunch. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. Maya gestured to an empty chair. Around them, conversations continued normally. Their interaction no longer drew stares or whispers. "I wanted to thank you," Brad said as he sat down. "For what?" "For giving me a way out that didn't destroy me. You could have humiliated me completely that day in the gym. Instead, you found a way for both of us to come out better." Maya thought about Master Kim's teachings about finding solutions where everyone could maintain dignity. "We found a way out together. I couldn't have done it alone." "Yeah, but you started it. You were the one who chose to try something different instead of just fighting back harder." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the normal chaos of high school lunch period play out around them. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd never moved here?" Brad asked. Maya considered the question. "Honestly, I think you would have found another target, and I would have spent another year trying to be invisible. We both would have missed the chance to grow." "Growth is overrated," Brad said with a grin. "It's way too much work." Maya laughed. "Tell me about it. Being mature is exhausting." As Brad headed back to his table, Maya reflected on how much had changed since her first day at Westbrook High. She was no longer the new girl trying to blend in, and Brad was no longer the untouchable bully ruling through fear. They weren't friends exactly, but they had something more valuable: mutual respect born from genuine understanding. Ashley slid into the seat Brad had vacated. "You know what's weird? I actually think you saved him." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. He was headed down a path that would have made him miserable for the rest of his life. Always needing to dominate people, always afraid of losing control, never having real relationships. You gave him permission to be different." Maya had never thought about it that way, but Ashley might be right. Sometimes the biggest gift you can give someone is showing them they don't have to be who they've always been. That afternoon, as Maya walked through the hallways of Westbrook High, she noticed something that made her smile. A group of freshmen were sitting together in the hallway, laughing about something on one of their phones. 6 months ago, they probably would have been scattered, each trying to stay invisible to avoid becoming targets. Change was possible. Not easy, not guaranteed, but possible. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Master Kim. "Saw the news article about your school. Proud of you for remembering that the strongest person in the room is often the one who chooses not to fight." As she walked out the front doors of Westbrook High, Maya realized that for the first time since moving to town, she was actually looking forward to tomorrow. Not because she expected it to be easy, but because she knew she was strong enough to handle whatever came next and smart enough to choose her battles wisely. The Westbrook warrior had finally learned that the most important victory was the one that made everyone stronger. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.